named Mabel. Now, her married name was Mabel Jones, but since she used Mabel Wagnalls as her professional name, in this story, we'll refer to her as Mabel Wagnalls. As you can see, we're in the Lithopolis Cemetery right now. A curious place for a story to begin, perhaps, seeing that if there is such a scene, it usually takes place at the end of the tale. Well, folks, it gets more curious than that. For as you see, of the 4 above-ground tombs containing folks, it's the Wagnalls family. And I'm sure you've noticed that they're the only tombs of this sort in the cemetery. It's not as if any of them were born, raised, and died in this village. Oh no. Mabel's father, Adam Wagnalls, only lived here for a few short years of his life. Adam? For as you see, when Adam was 5, his family left Lithopolis and moved to Findlay, Ohio. Mabel's mother, Anna Wagnalls, only lived here until she left for college. And Mabel's husband, Richard Jones, and Mabel Wagnalls herself, well, they never lived here. Now, I don't mean to offend any of you, but these townspeople were mostly farmers and laborers, not rich, artsy folks who consorted with rich and famous people. Yet Mabel's buried here in this quaint village, not with her fancy friends in New York City. Looking at her tomb, it reads, "R. Mabel," in capital letters. Now, I ask you, how could the Lithopolis townspeople ever possibly think of Mabel as theirs when she never even lived here? Mabel was the only child of Adam and Anna Wagnalls. I think we all know the family gained their wealth from the business Adam Wagnalls and Isaac Funk started in 1876, the Funk and Wagnalls Company, one of the major publishing companies of their time. It is best known today for its encyclopedias and dictionaries. We're going to go back before then, though. In order to better understand Mabel, I think we need to go back to her parents' humble beginnings. Both Adam and Anna were born in log cabins here in Lithopolis, Adam in 1843 and Anna in 1846. Both families were like the rest of their neighbors, hardworking and poor. I've been wondering how best to share this story with you, and I'm thinking the most straightforward way to do it is through what the publisher and his family held most dear to their hearts, the written word. That's right. We'll be going through their letters, books, speeches, and even some of the eulogies that were written about them. If that's okay with you all. So without further ado, we will proceed.
Publishing House of Funk and Wagnalls Company, 4466 East 23rd Street, New York, September 26, 1905. Kind friend, thank you for the letter with the photo of my beloved elm tree in Findlay. It was a delightful surprise. Ever since I received your letter and photograph, I've been remembering so many stories from when I was young. In 1851, every tree on Findlay's Main Street was cut down, except for that tree. To my delight, that tree was convenient to climb, and its branches I enjoyed the cooling shade. My boyhood summer days were spent sitting in that tree, whistling and daydreaming. You sent me a photograph of my cherished elm. The word photograph was absolutely unknown to me, but that changed in the winter of 1851 when a traveling photographer came to Findlay. His name was Aaron Willis.
Well, you look like a fine young boy. Would you like to see how I photograph people?
Yes, sir. That would be swell.
Well, then come along. I'm Aaron Willis. What's your name?
Thanks for pleased to meet you, Mr. Willis. My name is Adam Wagnalls.
Well, all right then, Adam. Well, why don't you get under this curtain and look through the back of the camera, and I'm going to go around and sit in that chair because that's where my subjects sit. And then let me know when you see me.
Thanks, Mr. Willis.
Do you see any, Adam?
If Mr. Willis had said, "Young man, when you look in this camera, you will see your future father-in-law," he would have been correct. For although he died 3 years after this incident, 17 years later, his daughter Anna became my bride. And the happy relationship continues even to this day. One fine day in May of 1852, I was sent to help my uncle, Mr. Blue, plant corn. His field was right near my beloved elm, so I sat in that tree later that very day.
So, Adam, this species of corn is called Zea mays.
Excuse me, Uncle, but what does species mean?
Well, Adam, the dictionary defines species.
That day, I not only learned what species meant, I also learned 2 other new words, dictionary and defines. 40 years later, it occurred to me that corn planting day in May was the beginning of a chain of events that led to the publishing of the Funk and Wise's Standard Dictionary. One day in 1853, a man came to stay for a couple days in our home. My parents vaguely remembered him as a carpenter from Groveport, Ohio. That day happened to be the last day of school for me. I had just finished my exams.
Adam, won't you recite your arithmetic tables and share with our friend a number of geographical facts?
9 times 11, 99. 9 times 12, 108. 9 times 13, 117. There are 31 states in the U.S., California being the last one added on September 9th, 1850. Ohio became a state on March 1st, 1803.
That is good, my boy. You are on the right track. Keep right at it, and one day you will be sitting behind your desk at the great city and you will make your fortune.
Kindly note I use quotation marks, because I never forgot what he said to me that day. For when I was young, everything a grown-up said or predicted had to be true. So I dreamt about the great city, and I wondered how I could make my fortune while sitting behind the desk. Looking back over the past 50 years, I now see how one event after another prepared me for my life as a publisher in New York City. And indeed, the realization exceeds the dreams of the boy who sat in the branches of that elm tree. Strange ideas came to me as I sat in that tree. I was too afraid to even mention them to others. One idea was about school. For some reason, I was not satisfied with my public education in Finland. I thought I would like to go to a school where each student had his own room to live in and was free to study and go out and about as he pleased, just as long as he finished his schoolwork. I did not know this could be a reality, for you see, I had never heard of college, but 7 years later I began in Wittenberg, and it was one of the most pleasant and beneficial times of all my life. Thank you again, dear friend, for your kindness. I was blessed on the day when you thought to send me a photograph of that tree. Your friend, Adam Willis Wagner. P.S. I did not dictate this letter to my secretary because I have told you things I have never told anyone before. You may show this to prudent friends, but please do not let this get in the newspapers. I do not wish to share such personal stories with the public.
I think Adam would agree with me that it was okay to share this letter with you, though, because you are all, well, you know, prudent. Next, we will visit the heroine of our story, Mabel Wagner's, as she holds a very special book she authored. The year is 1925.
Oh, Mother, it's just arrived, hot off the press. My book about you, The Light in the Valley. Oh, and that's exactly what you were, Mother, a beacon of light, helping Father and me. Oh, such a life we have, Mother. And now it's written down. Oh, how you and Father met. During Anna's last year at Xenia Female College, a romance entered her life. There was a young man, Adam Wagnalls, in another college, working as hard as her. By coincidence, he too was born in Lithopolis, Ohio. But they did not know each other because his parents had moved away when he was young. young. Adam was in his last year in seminary at Wittenberg College. He was visiting cousin Delia, who lived near Lithopolis. Might I add that every family has a family member like cousin Delia?
Adam, are you ever going to get married?
Yeah? But I'm looking for my ideal woman.
And what would she be like, Adam?
She must be a girl. But like me, who grew up poor, and yet has had the character and ambition to work her way through college.
I know the very girl you were looking for. Anna Willis, poor as a kitten in a well, but she's worked hard and is currently attending Xenia Female College to become a teacher.
Well, that's the girl for me. Introduce her to me, won't you?
So cousin Delia wrote to Anna with the surprising information that a divinity student at Wittenberg College wished to write to her. About books, of course, and their mutual studies. Very proper letters began flying between the two of them. My father had his own way of doing things. He knew when Anna and her class would be graduating. So, not yet having met my mother, and without having told her of his plans, he went to Xenia to attend her graduation.
Yes.
Oh, I hope that's not Anna. She's too tall. Or her hair is too dark. Oh, now I don't like her in eyes, and that one will surely grow fat in middle life. But her, oh, she looks so sensible and yet so bright. Oh, I hope that one's Anna.
This concludes our graduation ceremony. Congratulations to you all.
You must be Mr. Wagnalls.
Indeed, it was my father. Suddenly, completely and eternally enamored and devoted. My mother's smile left my father speechless. He thought she looked like an angel, and I thank God that he always continued to think this. Shortly after that, little country paper of Lithopolis made the announcement that Adam Wagnalls and Anna Willis had been married. Now, it makes sense that at the time, my mother's name changed to Anna Wagnalls. But my father's name also forever changed on that day. For you see, when they were married, my father took my mother's maiden name, Willis, and made it his middle name. My father's name from then on was Adam Willis Wagnalls. At the time of their marriage, this young minister had accepted a position at a large church in Kansas City, Missouri. That's where I was born. When I was 5 years old, I reached the age when I was gradually recognizing the endearing fact that, well, as one of my childhood essays has it, my mother was a nice American lady.
Anna, you know, I've been talking about leaving the ministry and starting a new career. There's an ad here at this Atchison, Kansas real estate company as a job opening, and it's for a lawyer. It sounds like an interesting job, and I'd like to apply for it. Would you be willing to study the law with me in the evenings to help me prepare for the bar exam?
I think that is a great idea. Let's do that.
My father was successful in securing that position, and our little triangle, as my mother described our family, moved to Atchison. Back then, you did not need to attend law school. You could study at home. So in the daytime, while my father was at work, my mother kept busy doing her housework, teaching some classes in Latin at a private school, and taking care of me. But each evening, she studied law together. And after a few furious studies, my father was successful in passing the Kansas bar exam. He was also successful in his new position.
Knowing you as I do, I think you would make a wonderful musician
sadly, I have no memory of a spelling book. My writing confirms this statement, too. It has always seemed to me somewhat comical that I, who am a bad speller, would become an author and find myself related to a dictionary. Well, in 1876, we moved to New York City so that my father could join forces with a fellow Wittenberg divinity graduate, Isaac Funk, who had started a small publishing company there. They rented the corner space in a crowded room for a few dollars a month and did all their work at 2 desks. My father's salary was $7 a week, and we lived in 2 small rented rooms in a boarding house. My mother cooked our meals on a kerosene stove, which also heated the 2 rooms when the weather wasn't too cold. But all of this was of little concern to me. What mattered was that my parents had bought me a second-hand grand piano. It was a very large, square piano in one of those very small rooms. So during the day, I played the piano, and at night, I slept on it.
Good night, Mother. Good night, Father.
After a year or more of pinching pennies, my parents decided they wanted me to learn how to speak French. In Paris. My mother and I were there for 5 months. We stayed in a little room 6 flights up near the Arc de Triomphe. My mother cooked meals on an alcohol lamp, and we lived on rice and chocolate. We attended French lessons and went sightseeing every day, and in the evening, I played with our landlady's daughter. I found it necessary to speak French immediately.
What is it like to live in such a small country as the United States? What do you mean? The United States is a lot bigger than France. No. Your country is teeny. The United States of America only takes a little back to the page, but France takes up the whole page. May no, that is not accurate. When we moved to Atchison, Kansas to New York City, it took days and days to get there. But when we came to France, it only took a few hours to travel from Le Havre to Paris. C'est vrai? Mais no, you must be mistaken, as this map proves it.
Regardless, no words can express the knowledge I received from that trip with my mother. Our 5 months in Paris gave me an education that years of study could not have provided. The greatest debt of gratitude, however, to my parents will always be the encouragement that they gave me when I was between the ages of 13 and 17. They encouraged me to attend good theater, operas, and concerts. In spite of their necessary frugalness, I was still given an entire $1 a week to spend on matinees. What an education it was for my future music and writing career.
I saw the play Richard III this afternoon, starring Richard Mansfield. He was so amazing, so convincing. Father, couldn't you and I go see it tonight? Just something that I couldn't bear if you miss it.
My father did go with me that same evening, and thereby gave me one of the most unforgettable evenings in my life. When I turned 17, I played in a number of concerts. I even performed at Steinway Hall. These heights being attained, there was nothing more to learn in America. So, my mother and I, we moved to Berlin, Germany, so that I could attend Franz Kuhlach's Conservatory of Music. We were there for 4 years. Fortunately, admittance to the program was based on the person's ability to play, not pay. Sadly, we saw my father only a few weeks each summer, just when he came for a visit. That was hard on all of us. And after 3 years of intense study at the conservatory, I was worn down and homesick. We decided to go home. Goodbye dinners were given in our honor, and the morning of our departure had arrived.
You know, Mother, I don't think I want to go home after all. Not before I made my European debut. Maybe leaving today is a mistake.
If that's the way you feel, then we need to think about it some more. How about if we ask your father? He'll be able to cable us back by tonight if he thinks we need to come home. And we'll still be able to catch our train if we need to.
So, that evening, together with several astonished friends who came with flowers and bonbons to see us off, well, we sat beside our steamer trunks and bags, waiting for the cablegram. It came with a directive to certainly stay, and so we did. I made my European debut the following December, and it was a grand success. We returned the following spring to America. I had one of the greatest surprises of my life when my mother and I met with a New York musical manager for the purpose of making my American debut.
I am happy to arrange your debut here in the States for $200.
Sir, how can you suggest such a thing? I studied in Berlin under the notable Franz Kuhlock for the past 4 years. You haven't even heard me play, and we do not have $200.
I do not mean to offend you. What I am offering is the most I can do for you, no matter how well you play.
My mother and I turned that offer down. Later, however, the same gentleman did offer me a traveling engagement with a famous star, but it involved too much travel and it was too unthinkable. After this experience, both my mother and I thought, well, what's the use of being a pianist after all? So, although I continued to enjoy playing the piano, and I did perform in concerts in the New England area, from then on, I concentrated on my writing.
At the beginning of this story, I mentioned that Mabel was not only a concert pianist and author, she was also a socialite. She was friends with Harry Houdini and author O. Henry. In addition, her family friends included poet Edwin Markham, artist John Dunsmore, and Captain Joshua Slocum, the first person to sail around the world solo. Now let's visit Houdini as he stumbles along with a letter he's writing to her.
My dear Mrs. Mabel Wagons, thank you for the newspaper article you sent. I have not seen it. Yes, it appears that I have a lot to be proud of. My name is becoming synonymous with making a getaway or escape. Richard Harding Davis used the name in one of his stories. So you are right in saying my name is being observed. Perhaps I may eventually get into the dictionary sometime. Oh, doggone it, a misspelled dictionary. No, I'm not going to type this. The famous murderer, William Burke, managed to get into the dictionary. Perhaps a respectable young man like me might also be allowed in. I'm keeping busy and excited for my next stunt, which is Tuesday at the Brighton Beach Shores. Hope you are well. Mrs. Houdini and I send our best wishes. Sincerely yours, Harry Houdini. Oh my, I've misspelled Mabel's name. Maybe she won't notice.
I did notice.
It made me smile. You know, at first I thought that Harry was joking about his name getting into the dictionary. But, self-promoter that he was serious. And 3 years later, his name was indeed added to my father's word list, meaning to release or extricate oneself from confinement by wiggling out.
And now a little bit about Mabel's friendship with the author, O. Henry.
It all started because I was impressed by O. Henry's story, Roads to Destiny. But he was an unknown author at the time. So I scribbled a few lines to his publisher, asking for information about this person. I received a reply a few months later from O. Henry himself. And by that time, my mother and I were on our annual summer visit to grandmother's house in Lithopolis. O. Henry and I exchanged many letters that summer.
New York, June 25th, 1903. My dear Miss Wagner, your pleasant little note from the metropolis, Lithopolis, was received and appreciated, although some envy was stirred up at the sight of your postmark. Just think, you are out in the wilds of Ohio living a carefree existence. Me, I'm stuck in my little tiny apartment with barely enough food to eat, and I have to write as fast as I can to keep my bills paid. If you would be so kind, I would like to hear more about Lithopolis. Sincerely yours, O. Henry.
As I read his letter, I realized that he enjoyed hearing about Lithopolis. I realized this fact more and more as his letters continued to come. For each letter he wrote was filled with questions about Lithopolis, and every letter ended with, "Please tell me more about Lithopolis." I'm so glad I kept his letters. And don't you know that in 1922, I published a book with those letters, and I called it Letters to Lithopolis.
Thank you, Mabel, and O. Henry, for sharing your story with us. The year is now 1914. Some 24 years have passed since Mabel and her mother visited the New York music manager. Mabel continues to enjoy playing the piano, and she now has 3 published books. In time, she will have 5 more published. The Funk and Wagnalls Company has done quite well for itself. Their first dictionary was published 20 years ago in 1894, and 2 years ago, they published their first encyclopedia. Funk and Wagnalls is now a household name. Our little triangle no longer lives in the cheap boarding house. They have been residing in a Manhattan apartment with a maid, no less. As time has marched on, Mabel's parents have aged, so you can probably surmise what these next 2 scenes will be about. In this scene, we will look on as Adam writes to a friend about Anna's passing. Because Anna had been very ill, Adam had employed a nurse, and Mabel, the nurse, and Anna had gone to the hotel dentist in Atlantic City. It was a fashionable hotel. It also provided care for the sick.
New York, 354 4th Avenue, August 27, 1914. My dear Merwin, the sad hour came on Sunday morning, August 16th.
Father, she's gone. Mother's gone.
Why, look at her. She's the same sweet smile that I've always known her to have.
Oh, Father, her passing was sacred. She was sitting in that easy chair where she could see the sky and ocean from the corner window. The doctor was here, and the mother could not speak and was very weak. She managed to scribble, "Come and doctor, help me." I looked at the doctor and Nurse Isabel, and I knew Mother was dying. Taking her hand and looking to her eyes, I told her, "Mother, Jesus is near." Father, you know how Mother had always been afraid of death. So I worried that I had said something wrong, but she smiled knowingly. And it was shortly after that she calmly looked upward and raised her arms to greet the angels that had come to escort her away. That was her blessed passing.
Remarkably, her same sweet smile remained in her internment on the following Thursday in the town of her birth, Lithopolis, Ohio. Trusting you are well, I will be delighted once again to hear from a friend I regard as the very best. Your sincere friend, A.W. Wagnalls.
Friends, we're back at the Lithopolis Cemetery, and it is early September 1924. 10 years ago have swept by since Anna Wagnall's passing. On our way here from St. John's Lutheran Church, we stopped and enjoyed a moment of silence in front of the Wagnalls Memorial Building that Mabel Wagnalls and her husband Richard Jones started constructing last year. You may be asking yourself, Mabel's husband, Richard Jones, when did that happen? Well, they've been married for 4 years now. I'd now like to introduce you to the Wagnalls family. Family friend, Edwin Markham, who will be speaking today at the interment of Adam Wagnalls. You might remember Mr. Markham. He read his poem, Lincoln, the Man of the People, at the dedication ceremony for the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C. 2 years ago. Due to time constraints, Mr. Markham, I would ask that you shorten your actual 1-hour address to just a few minutes.
My dear friends, Adam Wagnalls honored me with his friendship for 25 years. We have gathered here today to honor this great husband, father, businessman, and citizen. Adam Wagnalls married the right woman, Anna Willis. I remember her well. She was one of the noblest and finest women I have ever known. She helped her husband in every way. In 1876, Mr. Funk invited Mr. Wagnalls to join in the fortunes of a new magazine he was publishing. And at that time, the great partnership was formed, Funk and Wagnalls Company. What a fine team they made. Mr. Funk was a dreamer, a man of imagination. Mr. Wagnalls was a stabilizer, the man who furnished foundations for Mr. Funk's dreams. But the greatest achievement of all remains to be spoken of. I refer to his daughter, Mabel Wagnalls, yes, who's now Mabel Wagnalls Jones, for she's married to Richard Jones, and a man who's interested in all of Mabel's many lives. And Mabel does indeed have many lives, for she is a novelist, a musician, as well as a generous and compassionate woman. I think you all know that the memorial building, now being erected here in Lithopolis, is the hard work of Mabel's. It rose out of the love for her parents and also out of her love for you, the citizens and people of Lithopolis. I'm here to tell you that it is no misfortune when good men pass away. Yes, we will miss you, Adam Wagnalls, but we know you have gone to a better place.
Now, let's turn our attention to the building Mabel erected in Lithopolis, the Wagnalls Memorial. Just so you know, when Mabel first shared her plans to build the memorial with her New York friends, they did not applaud her efforts and even offer any encouragement. Oh no, far from it. They thought she had lost her mind. Their thought was, all that time and money for a town of 350 people? We will first listen in as Success Magazine journalist Marion Horton interviews Mabel and her husband Richard at their Long Island home, Do Re Mi Manor. Yes, like most of the people who live on Long Island, they named it their home. Knowing Mabel as we do now, Do Re Mi Manor is a fitting name, don't you think?
Tell me what the memorial will offer to the townspeople. Well, it's my intention for this memorial to not only share knowledge, but also to share the arts and promote community within the small town and surrounding area. The library contains 2,000 volumes. There's also 2 tower rooms that have been set apart, one for the poems of a family friend, Edwin Markham, and the other for the oil sketches by another family friend, John Dunsmore. The basement will be used as a social hall with a fully stocked kitchen, including china and silverware bearing the insignia Wagnall's Memorial. The townspeople will always have a place for their church suppers and their life celebrations. There's also an auditorium that seats 450 people, and it has a concert stage and a movie projector. But while it was my idea to build the memorial, it was my husband who worked closely with the architect to make it happen.
Mr. Jones, how did you manage the construction of the building without being on site all the time?
Well, we use mostly local men and materials in construction. I didn't need to always be on site because every workman in Lithopolis worked for the love of the thing that he was creating. It was an honor to work with these men.
Mabel, you said, I believe the dreams come true. Why do you call it a memorial, and how is it the fulfillment of a dream?
Well, this is a memorial to honor my parents. It wasn't my idea, though. I grew up hearing my mother say she wished she could do something special for the people of Lithopolis, for the town and the people who were so dear to her. To be able to build this memorial to honor my parents, it's a dream come true for me. But what is even more beautiful is that with this building, I have been able to see a dream of my mother's come true.
Let's now turn our attention to Lou Harshfield as she interviews the architect, Ray Sims.
Thank you, Mr. Sims, for meeting me today. As you know, I'm writing a paper about the Wagnall Memorial as part of my requirements to obtain my master's degree in the library science. Please tell me about your time with Mabel and her husband Richard, and of course, about the memorial.
It was a rare privilege to work with Mabel Wagnalls. She was so human and so understanding. She wanted to hire a young architect from Columbus so she could help professionally. So she hired me. When Mabel, Richard, and I first met, I told them that Georgian or colonial architecture would fit this rural setting. But Mabel said she wanted the building to be in the two-door Gothic style, for that was the architecture she and her mother had enjoyed when they lived in Berlin.
I understand you used the stone from the Lithopolis quarry to build the memorial.
Yes, the stone had been used to make sidewalks, millstones, bridge abutments, and headstones, but concrete had become popular and that had put the quarry out of business. Mabel Wagnalls not only bought the quarry, she also hired back all of the stoneworkers who had lost their jobs. The quarrymen were good workmen, but they were critical of me. We wanted to use multiple sizes of stone, but they were used to cutting stone to be just one size. The only way we could get the different dimensions was by going to them every morning and saying, today we'll make 6x18s, or whatever size we needed. I know they ever wondered if I would ever make up my mind.
As we were touring the memorial, you told me a heartwarming story about poor clay apples that have been placed in the library. Won't you share that story with me now?
Sure. When the workers began to quarry the stone, they cut down a sycamore tree. There was a nest of baby owls in it. One of the woodcutters ran and told Mabel about this mishap. Mabel's reply was, don't worry, I'll make sure they remember. And indeed, every time someone sees or hears these owls in the library, they are remembered.
Do you have any interactions with the people at Lithopolis? How do they treat you?
The townspeople were always skeptical. They never said anything directly to me, but I could feel their concern. They thought the slate of the roof was too heavy for the trusses to hold it, and some of them were afraid to go in.
What was Mabel like? Did you enjoy working with her?
She had a deep sense of humor. She was so human. One would think that that kind of education she had, she might have been aloof. But she wasn't. I will always be grateful to the Wagnalls family, for they gave me my first chance to make a name for myself. They trusted me and the local craftsmen. As a last service to Mabel Wagnalls in 1927, I designed the Wagnalls family plot in the Lithopolis Cemetery. The idea of the unusual use of above-ground tombs was conceived by Mabel and Richard because of their travels in Europe.
Mabel's faith in Mr. Sims was not misplaced, for he did indeed to go on to have a successful career. In 1944, Mr. Sims, along with John Schooley and Bert Cornelius, founded the firm Sims, Cornelius, and Schooley. That firm, known as Schooley Caldwell today, is still in operation. The date now is May 30th, 1925. After 2 full years of construction, the memorial has been completed. This is a big day for the small town of 350 people. There are 2,000 people at the memorial today. 2,000! And 40 of those people were Mabel's New York friends. In keeping with the importance of the dedication, the day has been jam-packed with activities. The day started at 10 o'clock a.m. with the unveiling of the World War I Soldiers Tablet in the center of town. Since that ended, everyone has been walking through the memorial building and enjoying picnic lunches on the front lawn. They are really making a day of it. Oh, I see that it's time for the 1 o'clock dedication ceremony to take place. The music you are hearing is a music roll of Mabel playing Chopin's Polonaise in D minor. Because there aren't enough seats in an auditorium, a speaker has been placed in one of the tower windows, so everyone out on the front lawn can also enjoy the speeches. Now, the dedication ceremony actually lasted for many hours with speeches from artist John Dunsmore, poet Edwin Markham, and Funkin' Wagnall's editor Frank Visitelli. In her speech, Mabel referred to these 3 New York gentlemen as the 3 wise men of the East. I apologize. We will not be listening to all of those speeches today, but we will listen in as Mabel delivers the speech she gave prior to giving the building's deed to George Weiser. That's Weiser, the Wagnall's first chairman of the board.
There has been a great deal published and said about this building, including every possible description of it. Besides what we've heard this afternoon from these 3 wise men of the East, but there is something you do not know about. Even my husband, who knows everything, did not mention it. I do not ever supplement anything that he says. There's seldom any need to, and I don't get many chances anyways. But this time, he will have to stand by my own qualified announcement that he omitted one very important thing. You have not been told of my husband's work on this building. Let me frankly confess that there wouldn't be any Wagnall's Memorial if there was no such person as Richard F. J. Jones. I could never have built this memorial. All I knew or thought I knew about construction was, well, the first thing you do is dig a hole in the ground. Well, I was mistaken, even about this. The first thing you do is consult a lawyer. And in the matter of making contracts and purchases, I heard one salesman say to another salesman, "Be careful what you say to Mr. Jones. He's not the purchasing agent. Oh no, he is 7 of them." So, in your eulogies of this building, its beauty and design, I beg of you, give all the credit to my husband and the architect, Ray Sims. Of course, I do admit to signing my name on many little slips of paper, but when you praise me for this, I simply feel very humble. For it was not I that earned the money. It was worked for and saved for by my mother and father. There is, however, one part of this memorial that I do claim a share in. Lithopolis needed a library. We all knew this. And we knew, too, that a theater would be very much welcomed. But there was something besides these 2 things that I have always thought Lithopolis needed. And that was a place in which to hold chicken suppers. In planning this memorial, there was some talk of combining the auditorium and the social hall, but I held out against this. If there couldn't be a distinct, separate, and satisfactory place for chicken and ice cream, I wasn't going to play. We finally split the difference by letting me have my own way. So again, let me say to you, my Lithopolis friends, when you're admiring this building, please, and enjoying the library and auditorium, praise my husband and Mr. Sims. But when you're downstairs carousing in the social hall, please remember me.
Thank you, Mabel. That was truly touching. Don't you know, just after her speech and deep presentation, Mabel was given a loving hug from the thankful townspeople. And later that evening, those same town people provided Mabel and her New York friends with a banquet. Yes, the townspeople gave what they could, from 50 cents to $5, as another way to show their appreciation to Mabel. This was a fancy affair with white table cloths, place cards, and the women of the town serving the meal. Perhaps this was when those New Yorkers realized what the memorial would mean to the town of Lithopolis. Now, maybe Mabel wasn't crazy after all. After dinner at 7:30, the group moved into the auditorium where Mabel's book-turned-movie, Revelation, was shown. What a big day. We're back at the Lithopolis Cemetery, and today's date is March 26, 1946. 21 years have passed whisked by since the dedication of the White House Memorial, and a lot has happened over the years. Mabel's husband, Richard, passed away suddenly at the beginning of 1929 from a heart attack. Shortly after his death, Mabel sold Do Re Mi Manor and moved back to the same Manhattan apartment she had once shared with her father. Mabel remained busy, writing, playing the piano, and of course doing everything she could to ensure the White House Memorial became the centerpiece of Lithopolis.
Looks like they are bringing someone to join us. Do you know who it is, Anna?
Oh, it's my daughter Mabel. She's been in poor health for some time. A week and a half ago, her breathing became irregular and she didn't want to eat. She was taken to New York City's Doctor Hospital about 4 days ago, and she passed away that evening.
Richard, Mother, Father, it's so good to see you all. I've missed you. Oh, ever since I built the Wagner's Memorial, I've worked hard to ensure its success. People don't understand just how wonderful life is. I know I did everything I could to make the Wagner's Memorial the centerpiece of Lithopolis, but looking at those people, it makes me realize that now that I'm gone, it's out of my hands. As the years pass, will they remember that I built it in honor of you and Father? That it was built with love to provide encouragement and opportunities for them? Will it remain a treasure to Lithopolis?
This last scene took place in 1946, but quite a few years have passed now, and we're back to the present day. Mabel's questions back then, they were good questions. Would any of you like to speak to those questions after all these years?
You know, I grew up in Lithopolis, and in 3rd grade, our class went to Wagner's for a field trip. I remember being told how Mabel built this library to honor her parents. I also remember feeling special because I was told Mabel built this library for me too, to provide opportunities for me. There's a quote that's etched in stone under her father's portrait. I never forgot it. Dreams long dwelt will amount to prayers, and prayers wrought in faith come true. I was told she wrote that and placed it in the center of the library because she wanted me and all the other kids who read it to dream big, pray about our dreams, and if it seemed important enough, to work hard. because that's how dreams come true. And don't you know, years later, when I was wondering if I should start my own business, I remembered Mabel's encouragement and I went for it. I'm able to thank for that decision. Oh, and that company I started, it provided well for me and my family. Thank you, Mabel.
I grew up on my family's farm in Bloom Township back in the 60s. We were at Wagner's all the time for Boy Scout meetings, church suppers, and for the Friday and Saturday night movies. It only cost 25 cents. That this little town had its own movie theater and that the movies were affordable for my family, that was really something. Wagner's even paid my college tuition and room and board for all 4 years, which was a big deal because without Mabel's help, I wouldn't have been able to go to college. Thank you, Mabel.
Don't you know when Mabel passed away, she left $2.5 million to the foundation, with the stipulation that the money not only be spent to continue the library and cultural affairs, but to also provide college scholarships. And since her passing, the foundation has given more than $6.7 million in scholarships to Lithopolis and Bloom Township high school graduating seniors. That is indeed a big deal.
I started bringing my daughter to Wagner's for story time when she was little. And don't you know, years later, when my daughter met her husband, they realized that they had been in story time together. They both had such fond memories of their time at Wagner's that when they had their first daughter, they named her Mabel. Thank you.
Thank you all for sharing.
Excuse me, Mr. Narrator. I'd like to say something if that's okay.
Well, of course. Go ahead, Ruth.
Just like my mom and grandma, I grew up coming to Wagner's. I have so many special memories. Sitting crisscross applesauce during story time, giving my list to Santa at the open Christmas houses, being able to check out any library book I wanted, even old movies like Yankee Doodle Dandy. I knew the children's librarians by name, and they knew me. Thank you, Mabel. Mr. Narrator, when I think about all this, here's what I know. Yes, people miss out on a lot, because life can be hard. But there's love and joy in the world, too. And as long as that's the case, the Wagner's Memorial will remain a place of wonder, the treasure of Lithopolis.
Well said, Ruth. Thank you. Well, it's getting late, folks. Of course, there are still a few lights on in town. The wedding reception at Wagner's is winding down, and El Gaal and the Pump House, the last of the stragglers, are finishing their margaritas and beers. Life continues here in Lithopolis, but it's time for me to go home now. And you folks, you're probably ready to call it a day too. Take care, be careful, and good night.